One day, in retrospect, the years of struggle will strike you as the most beautiful. Being entirely honest with oneself is a good exercise. Most people do not really want freedom, because freedom involves responsibility, and one must be humble, put personal preferences and adversities in the background, if one wants to discover the real. Experience teaches us that the world is not a nursery. I have, as it were, constructed a lay figure for the purposes of a demonstration which I desired to be as rapid and as impressive as possible. When it comes to the small matters in life, one should think long and hard, but when it comes to the big ones, whether or not to marry, whether to have children, one should just go ahead. It is precisely the minor differences in people who are otherwise alike that form the basis of feelings of strangeness and hostility between them. Analytic experience has taught us that the better is always the enemy of the good, and that in every phase of the patient's recovery we have to fight against his inertia, which is ready to be content with an incomplete solution. Our unconscious therefore does not believe in its own death, it acts as though it were immortal. Our unconscious therefore does not believe in its own death, it acts as though it were immortal. In this situation, what we call natural ethics has nothing to offer but the narcissistic satisfaction of being able to think one is better than others. This is where ethics based on religion enters the scene with its promises of a better life hereafter. I am inclined to think that, for as long it has long been our contention that dread of society, socialangsti, is the essence of what is called conscience. All who seek to be nobler than their constitution permits succumb to neurosis. They would have been better in health if they had found it possible to be morally worse. The dream is not a somatic but a psychic phenomenon. You appreciate the significance. If we subject the content of the dream to analysis, we become aware that the dream fear is no more justified by the dream content than the fear in a phobia is justified by the idea upon which the phobia. The first thing the investigator comes to understand in comparing the dream content with the dream thoughts is that work of condensation has been carried out here on a grand scale. The dream is a sort of substitution for those emotional and intellectual trains of thought. The dream is a sort of substitution for those emotional and intellectual trains of thought. What the behavior of men themselves reveals as the purpose and object of their lives, what they demand of life and wish to attain in it. The answer to this can hardly be in doubt: they seek happiness, they want to become happy and remain so. If this is what happens, then a transference and displacement of the psychical intensity of the individual elements has taken place. As a consequence, the difference between the texts of the dream content and the dream thoughts makes its appearance. I have found little that is good about human beings on the whole. In my experience, most of them are trash, no matter whether they publicly subscribe to this or that ethical doctrine or to none at all. The very emphasis of the commandment, "Thou shalt not kill," makes it certain that we are descended from an endlessly long chain of generations of murderers, whose love of murder was in their blood as it is perhaps also in ours. May we not be justified in reaching the diagnosis that, under the influence of cultural urges, some civilizations, or some epochs of civilization, possibly the whole of mankind, have become neurotic? The voice of the intellect is a soft one, but it does not rest till it has gained a hearing. Finally, after a countless succession of rebuffs, it succeeds. Human megalomania will have suffered its third and most wounding blow from the psychological research of the present time, which seeks to prove to the ego that it is not even master in its own house, but must content itself with scanty information of what is going on unconsciously in its mind. That others rejected it too, and still do, I find less surprising. For the little children do not like it when there is talk of man's inborn tendency to wickedness, to aggression and destruction, and therefore to cruelty. Lucretius and Cicero testify to the view that people dream about the things that concern them in waking life. When people criticize me, I know how to defend myself. But I'm powerless in the face of praise. It is plainly the case that children repeat everything in their play that has made a powerful impression on them, and that in so doing they abreact the intensity of the experience and make themselves, so to speak, master of the situation.